And welcome to a very special Royal Rumble edition of Roberts Rasslin Talk. I'm your host, Robert Red, and joining me today live via Skype is my former co-host of the Power Pro Wrestling podcast and good friend, Mr. Cornbread Chris Heineken. How you doing today, Mr. Cornbread?
I'm doing excellent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. We have a packed show for this very special Royal Rumble edition of the Power Pro Wrestling podcast. We're going to be talking about surprise entrants into the Royal Rumble. We'll be talking about who we think should win, not who we think WWE is going to book to win. And we're going to start off the show with a very special announcement that WWE made on Monday morning. So this was a very interesting announcement to get the show kicked off, Mr. Cornbread. I'm sure you've heard about this. WWE announced Monday morning that they are moving their streaming of the WWE Network, at least in the U.S., to Peacock. Now, with this announcement, they said they are going to start, I believe, on March 18th, according to the WWE article on their site. I'll read it to you, or at least a paragraph. It says, Peacock will launch the WWE Network on March 18th, beginning the rollout of more than 17,000 hours of new original and library WWE programming on demand and a 24/7 channel. Now, that 24/7 channel, it says, will include all the live pay-per-views, including WrestleMania and Fastlane, which will be on Sunday, March 21st, they announced. So 3 days later, they're going to have the first pay-per-view streaming on Peacock. The original series, it says, like the Broken Skull Sessions, like the Stone Cold Podcast, Undertaker Last Ride, and a new show called WWE Icons, which Yokozuna, I believe, is supposed to be the very first episode. In-ring shows like NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, and replays of Raw and SmackDown. And the network archives includes all the WWE, WCW, and ECW pay-per-views, groundbreaking documentaries like WWE 24, WWE Untold, and 365. And it says starting next year, they're going to have a signature documentary annually. So with that announcement, Cornbread, what are your initial thoughts on WWE making the announcement of moving their streaming to Peacock?
Well, my first analysis will be two big questions. And one of those two big questions is the JP Morgan Chase deal expired?
Okay, because I know you and me always talk about the WWE Network being owned by JP Morgan Chase, so you can go more into that because you're more knowledgeable than I am.
Well, the question, that's one of the questions. The whole JP Morgan Chase deal, has it expired to where WWE had to find another alternative or another means of, quote unquote, trying to keep it in the family, so to speak? That's question number one. Question number two, where's Fox in this whole deal? Because if you really understand all of this from a grand perspective, Fox and NBC are competitors. And WWE is on both of them, especially with Backstage and SmackDown, compared to only Monday Night Raw for USA Network and NXT as a byproduct of Wednesday nights. So I think it becomes more of the question of, and first off, congratulations to both WWE, not WWE, but WWE, and congratulations to Peacock, because I know Peacock wants to get something on the move, especially as far as NBC is concerned, because they're about to have more different programming coming up inside the next 6 months, and I'm talking Peacock. My initial thought was a great deal. How will it impact them financially, and is Peacock the right place to generate all the revenue for not only both WWE but also for NBC Universal and Comcast?
Okay, yeah, because and to get further into that was going to be kind of a follow-up question is, what impact do you think WWE has on this deal? Because it has been rumored that this deal for the streaming rights are 5 years, $1 billion, so that's about $200 million a year. So how do you think that impacts WWE?
That's a little bit of the same deal that WWE got for Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly speaking, it's a little bit of the same deal. So to me, if 5 years with that much money does not compare to the deal that SEC got for ESPN and ABC. 10 years, a little bit over what was the number, 24? They were talking anywhere between 24 and $50 billion over that 10-year period.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, which honestly starts 2024, which is right after the expiration of the college deal that colleges have with ESPN and all the ESPN networks. So how does a Peacock deal affect WWE? I'll say if revenue goes up 24%,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking WWE and Peacock here, if they go up 24%, I think that deal will get a little bit larger than some of the other deals. Because right now, everybody's trying to compete. Because Fox Now is also talking about adding more WWE content onto what they already have.
Mm-hmm.
So how would that affect?
Yeah, I mean, and that is a good point because I was going to also follow up. I think WWE does benefit from selling their streaming rights or at least leasing them out.
I'll go for the lease.
Because it's going to save them money on infrastructure because you got to realize if they are doing the WWE network internally, from a technical standpoint, not necessarily from a business standpoint,
right,
there's a lot of infrastructure there that you have to do a live stream. That's why we're doing this. Even like you and me Skyping, you have to look in the technology for that. That is not as massive as trying to run a whole content delivery network like YouTube or something like that you have like 17,000 hours plus. And I mean, you're going to be expanding that. So your infrastructure is going to have to expand. So, that's an additional cost WWE has to do just for the WWE network. And if they allow someone else to handle that and get the leasing rights for that, that's a lot of money they can save on just the infrastructure alone of just hosting the WWE network. And also, I think it's good that they went with NBC because they've had that partnership for years. There's like you go back, you have Saturday Night's Main Event. They've done a lot of business with NBC. So it made a lot of sense. Now, I know ESPN wasn't really happy about them choosing Peacock over maybe going to ESPN Plus. So do you think it was the right move to go to Peacock over ESPN Plus, where ESPN Plus would be kind of like a sporting network and stuff like that? So should have WWE maybe went to ESPN Plus over Peacock?
Well, let's really debate that subject because look at what happened for ESPN Plus the last time they were on pay-per-view. That was a disaster. That was a flat-out pure disaster. Now, if ESPN could have fixed their problems, then maybe they could have reconsidered. But here's something else maybe that we can all reconsider, and that's this. Because it happened last year, and it looks like it may not happen this year. I'm hoping and praying that it does not. Will WWE have to go to Fight TV or any other big sporting stream just to do a two-night WrestleMania?
Yeah. And I mean, that is a good point. And like you and me have had discussions off air about this. From my understanding, from what I've heard rumored, is this is the reason why Vince, initially when the WWE Network launched in 2014, right before WrestleMania, it's like right after the next day after Elimination Chamber 2014, the WWE Network. So it's been around 8 years, or actually 7, if I can do math right today.
Close to 7 years. Close to 7 years.
Yeah, we're looking at almost 7 years of the WWE Network. So that's just an interesting point of bringing up of what you said.
Well, I'll throw this in. I think it's so much doing your homework on technology.
Yeah.
Compared to trying to find the most availability of what you can get your stuff on. Because if you really do your homework on it and you do it properly, and you do execute the starter plans properly, then your streaming can be good.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you are really, and this is for all companies, and this is why a lot of times I praise a lot of the other pro wrestling companies and all that for this. Pay-per-view is pay-per-view, and the company and the pay-per-view companies have literally set aside that time just for you. That's revenue on their part, and that's revenue on your part. If, and notice I said if you can go Peacock, because their first pay-per-view on Peacock, and I'm talking WWE here, their first perfect pay-per-view on Peacock is going to be so critical to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Period. It sets the stage.
Yeah, and we're going to get back to that. But to get back to your point, because I kind of lost my train of thought, is like, I know you're big on WWE having traditional cable system, satellite system, pay-per-view versus streaming. And like I've had this discussion before, I'm sure with you, and like even on the show about like streaming is good. And like I'm a very pro streaming because it does benefit the consumer, or because that's something we're going to get into with this whole Peacock deal, how it impacts consumers. But I don't know if we're at the point to where streaming is always the best way to deliver pay-per-view, because there is that stability issue can always happen at one time. I've never really seen a stability issue with pay-per-view. Now, WWE had the Beware of Dog pay-per-view that had an issue, but that was due to weather, not due to a stream, because the stream can always fail. Like this could cut, the stream you and me are doing right now on Skype could cut out. So I mean, it's just, it's not as it's too high of a risk to just do this.
Right, but because it's internet based.
Yeah, from a consumer standpoint, it's much better to have a streaming service that is like the WWE Network's $9.99. Now, to continue, we talked about how it would benefit WWE. We're going to get on the consumer side. Now, I didn't really mention this, but to get the network on Peacock, one, it's only going to be in the U.S. So the network is still going to exist outside the U.S. It's in several different countries, because like if you watch pay-per-view, which I'm sure you have if you're watching us, you'll see all these different announce teams in all these different languages. So it's in a lot of countries right now. So this deal only impacts us here in the U.S. And also another impact is the network is going to be available on Peacock Premium, which I've been told is $4.99. So let's get to this part of the equation of how does this benefit the WWE Network moving to Peacock from a consumer standpoint?
It'll only benefit from a consumer standpoint two ways. And I know some people will probably look at price as like one of the issues, and yeah, that could be one. I understand that part. I understand the price part. Another, and probably what should be the main deal, if you want your revenue to go up, your content got to deliver. Period. Not because of the name, not because it's, underneath a certain banner. If you really want people to be invested inside of your business, and you have to look at this as a business, if you want them to be invested in your business, you got to put something out there that literally says, oh, okay, that's only $4.99. I mean, because there's a big difference between revenue going up at $4.99 and revenue going up at $9.99. That's a big difference. Because let's say, for example, someone here has a package that's $9.99, and someone here has a little bit more for $4.99. I know our initial response would be go to the $4.99 package rather than the $9.99 package. But if you look at it from a performance perspective, if the $4.99 package does not really deliver on what a $9.99 package can deliver, and they're both the same thing, if one doesn't deliver better than the other, then look at your balance ratio here of what goes up price wise.
Yeah. And to kind of get more into the details of the deal is the $4.99 is Peacock Premium. Not only do you get the network, but you get kind of additional programming, from my understanding, on Peacock.
Yeah.
Like on that. And then if you pay the $9.99, which is what the network is right now, you get ad-free Peacock along with the WWE network. And also, my understanding is, from a television perspective, some cable providers are including Peacock for free. So I think this is a good move from a consumer standpoint, because if you are one of those cable subscribers that is getting Peacock paid for, you could potentially not have to pay for the WWE network, whereas you're already paying $9.99. So you save $120 a year if that really is the case. I don't know if WWE is going to allow the network to function that way on Peacock, but if it is, a lot of people from a consumer standpoint are on a benefit. Plus, people who are already paying $9.99 for the WWE network only having to pay $4.99. That's great. And to bring this to like another perspective, or bring it a little more closer to home, as the saying goes, like with Disney Plus, when we have Disney Plus here paying as a streaming service, I go and do it through Google Play because I use an Android phone. Like, here's my phone right here for Android. Or you can actually subscribe to Disney Plus and stuff through Google Play. Well, Peacock offers that same thing through Android if you use Google Play. So for people who just have cash and don't want to put their credit card or debit card information out there, you can get you a prepaid, just Google Play card, put the balance on your account, and you can subscribe to Peacock. So, I mean, this is a win-win from a consumer standpoint, because you're saving money and you're getting more content as it is to begin with. Like, if you're paying $4.99, you're going to get the network. But if you like other stuff on Peacock, because like when Peacock launched on like Roku and like on my TV and stuff, I'm a big fan of the Munsters, if anyone watched that, and then like Saved by the Bell. So I mean, from a consumer standpoint, this is a great deal because you're cutting the network in half. Now, granted, WWE Network had the prepaid card, but like I said, you can do the Google Play card, and you can do that monthly as well. So I mean, it's just a win-win from a consumer standpoint for me, for the network going over to Peacock here in the U.S. Trying to think of if there's anything else. Now, also, to end this out, Fastlane, it said in the press release, was going to be the first pay-per-view that was going to stream on Peacock. Do you think Fastlane, instead of WrestleMania, should be the first pay-per-view that airs on Peacock?
Yes.
Why do you say yes?
And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's like what I said earlier. Fastlane, how you do on Peacock with Fastlane, is going to determine what happens when WrestleMania comes on Peacock. That right there, because really look at this from a Buster standpoint here. Fastlane is a B pay-per-view. WrestleMania is an A pay-per-view, or the Big Four.
Mm-hmm.
What would you rather have in that spot? I'd rather have a B pay-per-view, a test pay-per-view, if you will, a test pay-per-view in that spot to see what we can do to make WrestleMania better. To me, it's like the Pro Bowl to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Even though really the Pro Bowl really don't matter in a lot of cases, but from a television perspective, that's why they're on the week before the Super Bowl, because they realize that if it's after the Super Bowl, no one's going to watch. If it's before the Super Bowl, everybody will watch, and the ratings and all of that would dictate that. So you need Fastlane in that spot. You need a B pay-per-view as a test pay-per-view. That way, you can be prepared for the 2-day WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I think you made my point that I was going to make. You hit the nail right on the head, if I can use that analogy. I'm glad that they are going Fastlane, something that doesn't matter as much as WrestleMania, because Fastlane, you can kind of test the waters. You can work out any kinks or bugs you may have streaming on Peacock, with this being a new streaming platform, and you don't have the potential of having your big show of the year crash on you and like burn and fail on WrestleMania. So with that,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me throw out this question to you. And while this is really fresh on my mind, we talk about WWE pay-per-view. What about now with NXT inside of the pay-per-view realm now? What about NXT? For the main roster, which is Raw and SmackDown, and please do not get that twisted. For Raw and for SmackDown, of course, Fastlane should be the first pay-per-view. What about NXT? Should a takeover be in that spot as well?
Well, I mean, I don't really. I'll have to go back and look at the article, but I mean, I would hope that takeovers would be included in the Peacock streaming pay-per-view because they usually air on the WWE network. So with the network moving to Peacock, I would assume that takeover would air, but we don't have any clear indication because we know the next takeover is February 14th. The network's not launching until afterwards on Peacock. So we don't know what the what future takeovers are going to be. Are they going to be traditional pay-per-view only? Are we going to get a hybrid of where it's pay-per-view and Peacock? Are we getting Peacock only? What's going to happen there? It's like uncertain because I don't think the press release that WWE has on their website really clarifies what's going to happen with TakeOver. Because, I mean, NXT is still very much part of WWE. Whether you want to say it's developmental, main roster, which I'm with you, it's not main roster, it's developmental. It's not really a third brand, although a lot of people want to say that.
It's not where you can take Raw and SmackDown talent and send it right down there, unless if it's quote unquote, oh, we're not happy with how Raw and SmackDown is done, but that's another story.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's a question for another time or discussion, I guess, for another time. But yeah, NXT paper, what's going to be the future of TakeOver? But like, to get back to the point, I am glad they are doing Fastlane over WrestleMania. That way, like I said, you can get the bunks and kicks. Because, like, from a technical standpoint, once again, it's infrastructure or a new streaming platform. You don't really know how it's going to do. Because, like, I don't know how much live stuff Peacock does. I think they do channels that already stream live. They show on Peacock that you have the option from a consumer for. But doing WWE and bringing that in and doing the 24/7 like WWE does their live stream constantly. I don't know how well that's going to work. So, I mean, it's good that if you're going to crash and burn, it's better to do it on Fastlane than WrestleMania. But also, if you're testing with Fastlane, remember, that's Fastlane. You don't know the added viewership and the added extra load you're going to have when it comes to WrestleMania. So you still can have the problems when it comes to WrestleMania. It's good. You can kind of get your kinks and bugs worked out when it's Fastlane. And when it comes to WrestleMania, that hopefully you have everything ready and good to go.
And also, keep in mind, Fastlane and WrestleMania are in different locations this year. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So, I mean, Raymond James, are you going to have a good enough internet connection to stream on Peacock? There's a lot of questions that I think would really need to be answered. But
and you also have to bring out this point. Raymond James Stadium, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Home of this year's Super Bowl and also home of WrestleMania. So you have to bring that point out because not only is Fastlane will be the test for WWE for Peacock, but also what happens with the Super Bowl? Even though CBS has got it, and NBC should have it the very next year, which should be available for Peacock, especially when NBC gets it.
Yeah, I'd assume they would have Super Bowl on Peacock if NBC's going to have it, but
exactly.
Who knows?
But what I'm saying is you have to make sure you test out those 2 points because what happens at Raymond James Stadium a lot of times and what happens at Fastlane will determine what happens at WrestleMania, especially now that they're talking people being allowed inside Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be a discussion we'll have for WrestleMania if people should be allowed back in person to really more en masse than they have been for WWE shows. Because I mean, we see it in AEW.
The Super Bowl's going to tell it.
Yeah, so I mean that is a big thing. Thank you for joining me for this segment. Don't go anywhere, viewers. This has been a great discussion about Peacock. We still got 2 more segments, so you don't want to leave. Our next one, we're going to be talking about who we think should win, not who WWE is going to book to win the men's and women's Royal Rumble. And then we'll talk about maybe our favorite surprise entrants and maybe if WWE should have surprise entrants into the Royal Rumble. So don't go anywhere. Before we go, Cornbread, you want to give your info? And I will also leave it in the link in the video description below where people can find you.
Of course, I am on Twitter at Chris Heineken1. I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Cornbread. You'll see the messed up TV screen underneath Christopher David Heineken. I am, of course, part of the Associated Press and sports broadcaster and television host. So just look for anything there.
Yeah, and like any of your announcements and stuff, if people want to find out more about you, they can follow you there. My info will be in the link in the video description below. Like I said, don't go anywhere. Still got more great discussion coming on. So we will catch you in our next segment.